Hi everyone and welcome to our stream challenge for this week. This week we are going to be doing paper architecture, and this is where we're going to be building with paper. I actually got this inspiration from an architecture firm that had created a paper building challenge. And I'm going to show you how to build on your own without using a printer the cubes and triangles needed for building. But if you're wanting something a little easier, if it's a little tough for the skills that we're going to be practicing today for some of our younger children, I'm going to give some alternatives. You can also go to websites. You can Google square or paper cube templates and paper triangle templates. I'm also going to try to upload some PDFs to go with this that have the actual templates that you can print off on paper that they can just go ahead and cut out from there. But I'll give you a couple different options to make this task a little easier if it's a challenge for little ones to do the measuring out. But this is a great mathematics skill because we are using math and measurement. We are also using geometry, and then we're going to use our artistry to build, and creativity to build with what we create using math. So what you're going to need today is a ruler, and we're going to be working in inches for today. So if you've got a ruler with good inches on it, you're also going to need some tape. I've got my magic tape here, a pencil, paper, and I've got a stack of paper here. I'm using cardstock paper. If you do not have cardstock, that is a-okay. You can use construction paper or just plain paper as well. And you're going to need scissors. Those are the materials you'll need for today's project. Let's get started. Okay, we are ready to start on making our cubes. And today, we have our rulers, and we are going to go by 1.5 inch. If you were to do the other side, these are millimeters, and that's the metric system. But for our sake and our being able, since we're using larger and clunkier sizes, we're going to do our ruler on the inches side. And we're going to do 1.5 inches. So 1.5 is, if we were to start from here, we go out to 1 and then the half. So each of our squares is going to be 1.5 inches tall and 1.5 inches wide, because squares are uniform in size. If you were doing a rectangle, you'd have a longer side on one side. Like a ruler is a very long rectangle, but we are going to work in square units today. So we've got our 1.5. Because I have an older ruler that is a little worn out, I'm actually going to start at 1 and go to 2 and then a half, just because that's going to be easier for me to see a cleaner line and have my measurements a little more accurate. So we are going to start off on this, and I am actually going to use a marker so that you can see what I'm doing, but you can use pencil for marking your spots at home because you'll be able to see it. But I want to make sure that you can see what I'm doing on the paper today. So I'm using the marker here. And I'm going to line up, I'm just going to line this up just so I can see and have kind of a square edge to start with. And I'm going to start at that 1. I'm going to go to 2 and then a half. I need to mark at the 1 and at the 2 half there. Now you can either, if you're really clever, or if you want a challenge, you could measure up without moving your ruler. You do that half and then a full to the 4. Or, so I'm going to mark the 4. Or if you wanted to just keep going with the 1 to the 2 and the half, you could slide your ruler as well up and then just do the 1 to the 2 and then the half. It's up to you. We need 5 marks because we need 4 squares for the main body of our of our cube. So I need to go one more time because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 spots. I need one more. 1.5. So each of those lines is 1.5 inches away from each other. Now we're going to go across to mark our next parts. So I'm going to turn it so that you can see. We're going to put our 1 there. And I'm going to go here to that 1 to 2, and then a half. One to 2, and then a half. Can you make these bigger? You sure can. If you wanted to do 2 inches, you could totally do 2 inches as well. It is very much up to you and what size you want your cubes to be. So I'm going to go down. You'll notice that I've got what starts to look like squares on there. And I think you can see them. Yes, you can see the dots. They're very faint there. All right. Now we are going to play my favorite game, which is connect the dots. And this is where you want to really think about lining it up so that it is square with the edge of the page, and then draw your line. Now I'm going to go all the way down. I may as well go all the way down. Have a little tail on there. And do the same on the other side. And then we need to connect those dots together now that you've done the lines down from top to bottom. Oh, Miss Heather messed up. There we go. Connect those dots. All right, we have what kind of looks like a ladder now. Now a square, if you wanted an open square, you would be done and ready to cut out. But because we are going to make a square cube, we are going to need to put wings on either side. So we're going to do a T shape, and we're going to do 2 squares on either side of this block here. So, and you could do it. This block is just me accidentally going off the edge of the page. I'm going to use it as a tab when I start to seal up my my cube. You could put the T off of this one. You could put it off this one, or this one. But I'm going to do, actually we'll do this one to do so that you see from the view that it makes a T on there. Again, it's that 1.5. So you need to measure out from the side here. We're going to go 1.5. And up here, 1.5. And then you can draw your line. Draw it. And draw it. And mine's a little cattywampus. I'm going to go back here and make sure that I have a good line going from there to there. There we go. Then you have to do the other side. 1.5. 1.5. And I'm just going to go ahead and draw my line out there. And draw my line out there. And you'll notice that you don't even have to measure this one side because you've already done those 1.5 inch squares there. All right. You have your template all drawn out for you to cut out your cube. So that is your next thing to do, is you need to cut out your cube. And get this nice and cut out. And again, there are some fun templates out there. The templates that I have available through the PDFs are, they have tabs included with them. So you can do the tabs or you cannot do the tabs. For drawing your own, I thought it more simpler for us not to do the tabs. I'm going to go ahead and cut off the end there so that I have a little more maneuverability. All right, so we have our T that we're ready to work with. Now, if you wanted to, because you're going to want several cubes for doing the architecture and building, you could use this as a template. You could trace this onto another piece of paper and cut out more of them, which might be the easiest route to go rather than measuring each time to make a new cube. Or if you're wanting to do different sizes and play around with different sizes, definitely measure out some new ones. But you can use this as a template to trace and do more cubes with. Once you're done tracing and you've done some cutting out, you're going to fold along those lines that you've created. Fold along those lines. And so we folded our cube. We're ready to start assembling our cube. And what I like to do with my tape is I like to get a strip. Now this strip is way too big for doing anything with. So I stick it on the edge of the table and I cut a little piece off. Now I've got a nice small piece of tape. And remember that tail that's smaller than the other ones? I put that on the inside and I tape it down. And that closes up the first part of my cube. Oops, I did not. There we go. Gotta line those edges up real good to make my cube. Then another piece of tape there. And I'm going to seal up the top part there too as well. We've got these two flaps we need to close up too. So I'm just going to cut that piece of tape into two pieces. And we'll seal up one side and two sides. And you have a cube. That is the first part here. We've done our cube. Now you can make several cubes again, and then you can start building. You can see how tall you can build buildings. You can figure out if you wanted to stack some different ones in different formations. It's kind of like making your own building blocks. So you start with your cubes. Now if you have some markers, you can decorate them too, which is kind of fun. So you have your cubes. The next thing that we're going to learn how to make is a pyramid. So I've got the other half because I actually only needed half a sheet of paper for making my pyramid. So I've got the other half from earlier when I tested it out. It's always good to test out your theories. Now remember, what is our measurement that we used for our cubes? 1.5 inches. The base of your pyramid is also going to be 1.5 inches. So I'm going to find the middle of my paper here, and I'm going to get that marker out again so you can see. We've got our 1.5, because we're going to make a cube in the center of this paper. So we do 1, 2.5. We can actually draw that line. 1, 2.5. Draw that line. Then this should also be 1, 2 and a half, and 1, 2 and a half. Now, this is where we vary from what we did before because we have our square here, but now we're going to be doing pyramids, so we need triangles. And the way to get a good triangle on this is you're going to take your ruler and you're going to find the middle of your 1.5 inch space. And the way to do that is by doing the little hash marks here. So the 1, if you see here, we've got 1.5. The middle part there is a quarter. And then we have half of a quarter, which is 1/8. So we are actually going to go by the eighths. So take your fingers. We're going to start at 1.5. We're going to go in by 1/8. Got your 1/8. Then we've got our quarter. We're going to go to that 1/8 again. And then we go again. And where do our fingers meet? It's at a quarter line there. And you're going to mark your quarter line right in the middle. Now, if you're good at memory, you can remember that from your measurement, it's the quarter line right before the 2. You're going to do it again, that quarter line right before the 2. And again, the quarter line right before the 2. And one more time, the quarter line right before the 2. If Miss Heather can line up her thing right. All right, so we have now marked on our square where the middles of our lines are. Our pyramid, or our triangles for our pyramid, are going to be 1.5 inches tall, just like our cubes. So we are going to measure. We're going to put that 1 on the line there, and we're going to go up 1.5, and we're going to mark it. We're going to do it all the way around again. So we're going to go all the way around for 1.5. Can Miss Heather find her half mark? All right, so we have found our 1.5. So now we've got these dots around our circle, or around our square. Miss Heather needs to know which one she's talking about. All right, so to make our triangles, we are going to take our ruler and put it on the corner of our square, and we're going to line it up with that dot that we put out there above that middle line. And it's kind of like connect the dots again. So you're going to connect the corners. Oh, it looks like a house, doesn't it? Connect those corners with that dot that you put out 1.5 inches away from the square. And again, the templates that I put out there are going to have tabs. It's a lot easier just to tape if you're doing your own than try to design and measure out tabs. So, and one more. All right, so now we have something that looks like that. I always like how clean the, and then we have to cut out how clean the lines are with geometry. All right, we're cutting it out now. Now I know some of us have a habit of wanting to cut with all the lines. We are only doing the outside lines. That's a whole new thing for us to do, is cut on the outside lines and not on those inside lines that we drew. All right, we have cut out our shape here. Now, again, like the cubes, you can use this as a template and just trace it many, many times on a piece of paper. Now, when I initially did the squares and the triangles, I was very much centered on the thing to make sure that my measurements were just right. Now you can start to move around and figure out how many you can fit onto one sheet of paper and then cut them out. Once you are ready to start folding, fold on those lines again. So you've got them folded up. Get that piece of tape. Again, I like to stick it on the corner so that I can cut smaller pieces off of the tape. Sorry, parents, you may be finding tape on the edges of your tables for a while. And you're going to start taping those edges together. And need 2 more pieces of tape to seal this up. Now, again, for this, do you need to have it at 1.5? No, you can make it any size you want. So if you wanted to make a bigger triangle or bigger pyramid, go for it. This is the pyramid that I have built. And now you can start building buildings with pyramids on top of them. Or you could figure out a way to balance some of the different shapes together, like so, maybe. And see what you can create. Miss Heather's having a tough time creating with this, but you can start building different buildings, see what height you can do. You could build a community. You could create a road, and you could build a community, different buildings for your community. Have fun trying it out. And that is our stream challenge for this week. See how high a building you can build. Try some different measurements. What if you did 4 inches for your squares? You need a big piece of paper for that. See what you can come up with. I will be back next week with our next stream challenge. I hope you have a wonderful day. See you later.